and thank you for joining us today on this conference seminar about fairness. My name is we will submit projects to the agency with all the costings, with all the objectives, with all the work packages, the structure of how we plan the project to take place, and obviously the deliverables. Like every project, you need to have an end result. So we would outline where we would like to take this project if it is funded. And then the agency will consider itself and grant as appropriate. In this case, we won this project in July 2022. We started working in September 2022. We've been running this for just over 2 years. We have partners from different countries. I will introduce them in a moment. So today, now we're going to talk about the objectives. I'll introduce the partners, the different work packages, the structure of the project, the modules which we've created, but I'm not going to go into detail now, we'll go into detail later on. What we call a mind map, and obviously the e-learning platform, which is key to this educational system. The idea is that this project is free and is available online and will be online for at least 3 years. Okay, so anything that you see today will remain there for the next 3 years. The partners, there is ourselves, we are the lead coordinators. So we would have come up, as MSc, I would have come up with the original idea. We would have roped in the different partners. We have Metaphor, who is represented by Raj, who is not able to be with us today. He's coming from Austria. We have Vernian, who is represented, this is from Cyprus, represented here by Pangos. We have Excel Lab, again, they're based in Italy, but they were not able to join us today. We have the Southwest University in Bulgaria, and Sofia, who is represented here by Professor Preslav. And we have European projects that in training, in PT, who's represented here by Anselmo. But obviously, proceedings will be done in English today. If there are any questions, any comments, any requests for clarification, simply raise your hand and interrupt us as we go along. Okay? Just like any other European Erasmus project, there are work packages. So when we would have given the proposal, when we would have submitted the proposal, we would have said, this is what we're going to do. And so the first one is obviously project management. Someone needs to manage the project, coordinate with the partners, and get the job done. The second one is an assessment of the different capital sources. So what we did was we ran a survey with a number of people in each jurisdiction represented. So all of the jurisdictions represented in the partners, so Malta, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Italy, Austria, were all involved. They all involved their own stakeholders, and they ran a survey amongst SMEs and other financial services stakeholders to identify the key sources of capital and obviously how prepared they feel SMEs and business owners are in respect of these sources and how complex they are, etc., etc. We'll go into this very briefly later. Whatever I describe here is available online. I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail and go through all the different cases. So I do welcome you to look at our websites and see what it's all about. After the assessment, we then created a self-assessment tool, we call it a mind map, whereby anybody can click on the different answers, yes or no, and based on those answers, it creates a scenario. Okay, it's a tool. So don't imagine that it's going to be something that's going to give you some radical answers. It's a tool, it's indicative, and the idea of this tool is that based on the answers that you give, yes or no, different categories of questions, you will be then guided into which module we feel is most appropriate to you. Okay, so obviously you can do all the modules, there are 5 in all. It's a matter of self-learning, they're all text-based, obviously internet-based, free. And if you're using the mind map, it might push you towards one module and not the other. It doesn't mean you can't do the others, obviously. We then also created the 5 modules which were then placed into an e-learning platform, which made it more user-friendly and accessible. Okay. To get into the e-learning platform, as I said, you will need to register first. However, it's a simple process and does not require any personal data. The modules, there are 5 in all. The first one we felt was the most appropriate in terms of starting is entrepreneurship and financial tools management. So this is the first module, which we will explain a bit later on, which deals with what is entrepreneurship, what is the importance of having financial tools, financial adequacy, etc. Number 2 is understanding financial reporting and business planning. Why? Because we felt, and the survey also showed, that a number of business owners and entrepreneurs were inadequately prepared in terms of understanding financial statements, understanding an income statement, a balance sheet, and things like that, and understanding the process of getting into a business plan. Or creating a business, why would you need to have a business plan? Okay? And I'm sure that anybody here who is an entrepreneur, who is an SME, will know that having a business plan is fundamental to get access to capital. Okay, whether you're going to the bank, whether you're going to the capital market, you need to have a robust business plan. And therefore, this module explains that. And then we had 3 tiers of financial products, access to capital: simple, medium, and complex. Simple is a bank loan, overdraft. So if you're going to go to the bank, what are the processes? What do you need? How do you have to prepare yourself? And that is what that will go into. The complex one is access to the capital market. And definitely I would say that is the most complex. And how will you go to the capital market in order to access capital through the issue of shares or bonds? So these are the 5 modules which we will be going into a little bit of detail, not a huge amount. Because as I said, this is all available online and you can do this in your own time. But it will explain the approach behind them, the rationale, as well as what the difference is in respect of the different This is the mind map. Now you can't see anything, but don't worry. We'll go through it a little bit later. And essentially, we have questions such as, have you invested in your premises location? So, have you had that high or low? And these are all high or low answers. And depending on the level of investment that you've made into your premises, the level of stock that you have in terms of assets, the strength of your brand, the value of your equipment and machinery, these are all going to create scenarios which, working together with capital investment, your target growth in terms of your business, as well as the financial strength, these will all combine to give you an indication of what sort of module you will need to, or we feel is most appropriate to your circumstances. Okay? It's not, it is what it is, in the sense that it does not ask for numbers, it's not going to tell you what is the turnover, what are your ratios, what is your balance sheet value, net asset value, etc. And we don't want to do that. We want to have a simple tool which people can use to be able to take them to the next step. Then the e-learning platform, which is literally one click away from our website, has 5 courses, and each of them will open up into the different modules. At the end of the module, of each module, there is a quiz. Okay? Again, it's a quiz. So it's a simple questions, and based on your answers, you will get an indication of whether you're right or wrong. This is a self-testing tool, so that you can run the module, you can walk through the module, and then when you answer the quiz questions, it will give you an indication of whether you understood the concept or not. This applies for each of the 5 modules. This is the website, fairness-project.eu, which is the access to the Fairness project, as well as access to the mind map and the e-learning platform. Like I said, it is totally free of charge and freely accessible. Incidentally, anybody who needs to know the website is welcome guest. Welcome guest. So the website. The Wi-Fi password is welcome guest, all lowercase, one word. Welcome guest. Okay, everybody who wants to use the Wi-Fi. Okay, so from my end, I will be quiet, and I pass the floor to Martes, CEO of the Chamber, who has a message to pass about the Chamber's role, etc. Martes?
Thank you.
And also because we believe that there are a number of synergies that we can continue collaborating on and working on together. Basically, as the only official chamber of commerce in Malta, we represent 80% of private sector employment and 75% of exports. So this is also why it makes sense that we continue collaborating with the stock exchange on the various levels. And today, in order to complement this project, what we have decided to focus on is one of the areas which we as a chamber lead. As most of you know, the chamber is mostly known for its policy proposals, for its policy stances. However, within the chamber, we have another 2 very important departments. We have a department which focuses on projects, and our projects are based on 5 main pillars, which are economic growth and resilience, environmental sustainability, digitalization, human capital, and good governance. And then we also have an internationalization department. We are very, very proud to be the employer body which forms part of Enterprise Europe Network. Now, this is a very important network which businesses can use. But although it's a very important network, not a lot network. In short, we refer to it as EEN. So this initiative was set up by the European Commission in 2008, and it is specifically intended to help small and medium-sized enterprises to grow and also to innovate internationally. It is of particular relevance to us because 99% of businesses in Malta are SMEs. What does it entail? So as part of this network, there are 39 countries, and there are a number of other entities which feed into this network. There are over 200 entities, and they range from chambers of commerce and industry. There are regional development organizations, universities, as well as innovation agencies. Now, how do these four criteria, these four pillars merge and contribute and help businesses? So the role of the chambers of commerce, be it from whichever country they come, is primarily set to help businesses get together. So if you are a business, you're looking to export a particular product, or you're seeking to import a specific product or an element in your product, or if you have a service which you would like to export, or if you have a service which you'd like to improve, or if you are looking for specific skills, this is who you need to contact. You can come to the Malta Chamber of Commerce, you tell us what you would like to achieve, what you are looking for, and we will literally filter through the network for you in order to give you the relevant contacts. Regional development organizations, these are applicable for the bigger countries. Malta is small, we are a region in our sense. University and research institutes, as well as innovation agencies. Now, in Malta, the consortium is made up of these four entities. So there's the Malta Chamber, where we focus on the business side. There is Malta Enterprise, which supports heavily this initiative and has taken on primarily the role of helping businesses to move more towards digitalization. There is the Malta Business Bureau, which, as you know, is the consultancy arm of the Malta Chamber and of MHRA. And we also have the innovative part, the innovation part, which is the Malta Council for Science and Technology. And during the past 5 years, 2.5 years, 2.5 years, we're soon going into our third year, we have focused as a consortium on these 6 areas. And we have focused on these 6 areas because we believe that they are the areas which our companies, our businesses need to really invest in. So there's the element of digitalization and sustainability, access to finance, RD&I, market access and internationalization, as well as entrepreneurship. And I will be taking you through what can be done in order to achieve these 6 points. Now, these are all the areas in which the Enterprise Europe network can implement. So if we're speaking about sustainability, here we are speaking about the transition and to achieve the goals and the targets that we have set as a country. So if you're seeking to expand your portfolio of sustainability products, you can do that through EEN. If you're seeking to embark yourself on a sustainability journey to become more sustainable so that then you can reach your internationalization goals, you can actually do that through EEN as well. The same goes for digitalization and innovation. And the next slide will also take you through the journey. Resilience and R&D partnering. So we see the top 5 as the basic notes of where businesses need to be looking at. The 2 in the orange corner is the support that you would be able to get through EEN, which is access to EU funding, but also access to other types of financing. And last but not least, how then as a Maltese business you can penetrate better the EU single market, as well as to go beyond the EU and also internationalize. So this is what we call the EDN journey, and I'll take you through the 5 steps and what we as a consortium would be doing. So the first thing that we do would be the setting up of an initial meeting with the company who would be interested in learning more about the EDN services. There is a process where you are registered into the system, but that is the point when everything kicks in. So at the initial meeting, we would need to understand what your current business model is, how you are structured, where you want to get to, what are your current needs, what are your current challenges, as well as the type of HR expertise that you have, and whether you have interest in investing further. Following the initial meeting starts the homework, basically, for us. That is where we come to the assessment stage. And when it comes to EDN service, we have to package it within the context, the wider context of what EDN is about. So that comes also where we do a SWOT analysis, where we analyze the opportunities, the threats, if there are any impacts, and the risks. At the second stage, we also analyze the action that needs to be taken by the company and the solutions in order for those actions to materialize. Once the second step is finished, we sit down again with the clients and help them draw an action plan. Once the action plan is finalized as well, we move on to funding. And this is where I would like to place a little bit of emphasis. I have noticed that within these years that I have been working within the chamber, that all these businesses tend to work in reverse. They see what funding is available and design a project around the funding available. It works at times, but it is not the correct way to do it. You need to be looking at your business, you need to be looking at where you would like to get to, and then see what funds there are available for your ambitions and your dreams. That is very crucial even for the success of the projects themselves. We would help you identify what different schemes there are which you could step into, both at a local level and even at a wider EU level, and then ultimately comes the implementation stage. Throughout these 5 processes, you can rope in your HR departments, you can rope in your financial departments, you can also rope in your consultants. So we do not take the role of the consultants, particularly when it comes to the financial side and to the funding, but we are here to constantly guide, even because the number of funding of opportunities are a lot. And it is very easy to get lost if you start looking at all the funding that there is available. But since we've been working on the project now for a good number of years, we will know exactly which would be better suited for the needs of the company. Over the past 12 months, so in the beginning I was telling you that not a lot of people, not a lot of businesses know about EDN, about Enterprise Youth Network. However, those that do have found it very, very useful. So over the past 12 months, we have been approached by 52 companies. We have assisted over 20 of them, both in finding local partners, international partners, sourcing material for their products. And over 15 have actually managed to get funding to a recent grant tied to energy. And we are particularly proud about the last grant, and I will show you why. So out of all EU, Malta, tiny Malta, managed to rank in 2nd place. We were the country where Croata, we came on 2nd place in the number of applications, successful applications that was actually launched. And I would like to show you, I wanted to show you this slide, because though we're small, more often than not, we punch above our weight. So even though the process might seem complicated in the beginning, please do not give up. Once you get the hang of it, it's very easy to follow And you can use it as a tool to further supplement other projects that you have been working on. For example, when I was listening to this presentation, I could see a lot of synergy and follow-up between MSCI's project and EEN. So if you start off with the MSCI Fairness project, you identify what your gaps are, where you want to be, etc. Then you can move on to the Enterprise Europe Network, to the EEN network, to see how to actually get your ideas to materialize. We have 3 people within the chamber who focus on different aspects of Enterprise Europe Network. We are here to help, so please feel free to reach out to us. Every question is very, very relevant to us. So even if it might seem to be a petty question for you, in our eyes it is not a petty question at all. So we are here to help, we are here to support our businesses. Please make use of our premises, and any questions that you might have, please feel free to reach out to us. Unfortunately, as I have another event to attend to, but we will be very, very happy to assist you. And once again, well done to the Malta Stock Exchange Institute for the excellent project that you have run.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Very interesting. Next week, on Thursday, we will have a kick-off meeting of another new project which has been awarded to us, which we will be starting next week with a number of partners coming from Europe. And the subject of this project is succession planning. And Marcus, before you leave, I will tell you that next week we will definitely, or after next week, we'll be contacting you, because I think that the Chamber has, I think, an important role in terms of a stakeholder in the succession planning process. Okay. One of the big problems we have in Malta is, not only in Malta but also in Europe, is that many family-run businesses don't, the owner thinks he's going to live forever, or she's going to live forever. Obviously that's not the case. And succession is something which is ignored until it's too late. Only 20% of companies actually have a succession plan. And this is something which I believe we need to address. So, this, for the next, 20-25 minutes, I'm going to walk you through, or we're going to walk you through the website. This is the website which we created to showcase fairness. Essentially, the result of fairness is this website and the links that are encased within it. This is the home page. Correct. So if you click onto the About the Project, now, please. This gives you an overview of what the objective of the project. It's a little bit verbose, but essentially it is a description of what fairness is all about. Who are the target groups, and obviously the beneficiaries of this project, as the case may be. If you click on the partners, over there, that's it. That is an overview of who the partners are. I don't know why it's Italian. Or incidentally, it's in multi-language. So you have English, Bulgarian, German, Austria, Cyprus speak English, like we do, so we didn't need to translate it into Greek, and Italian. These are the partners who are part of the project, essentially. Why is it in Italian? Should be in English. Okay, if you go to the top again, please. We then have the project results. And the project results on the far right. Okay, if you go down to there, we have the different phases. So if we kick off on the critical assessment, and I invite Pambos to join me on the podium, please. What we're going to do is we're going to very briefly go through the principles of this research process that we went through and key results now. So yes, so Pambos is here from Vernian. He is one of our partners coming from Cyprus, and the process kicked off back when we started working together in September through an assessment, a critical assessment of the capital market solutions. So Pambos, when it came to this process, this research process, what was the methodology that we used for each jurisdiction? Because obviously the research was conducted across the different jurisdictions represented by the partners.
So first of all, we developed a common template that we could all use. We identified the similarities and the differences between the different jurisdictions. Although, as you can see from the participating countries, if we exclude Austria, the rest of the countries, it varies a bit bigger, but Cyprus, Malta, Bulgaria, I believe we have more or less the same structure. And then each partner conducted the research in their jurisdiction.
And broadly, how many people were approached by each jurisdiction? So, I mean, obviously, this was a survey with the resources of our own individual partners. So,
was it 25 partners?
Each jurisdiction needed to have at least 25 responses.
And if my memory is correct, we were also required to conduct only SMEs or members of our target groups, entrepreneurs, startups, etc.
So that we have the opinions of persons who are involved in the business, either through financial services, banks, stockbrokers, etc., as well as possibly the business owners themselves, for them to give us indication of what they feel about access to capital. We have a report which is online. It's 102 pages long. Okay, so I'm certainly not going to go through this report. But there are some interesting results. Simple, medium, complex. Broadly.
Okay. First of all, we all think that we know the financial products out there, but I believe reading, especially the research we did, the research our team did, because I was not involved, but reading the research our team did, and also the research in the other jurisdictions, it is obvious that, and I put myself in the equation, we are not very familiar and aware of the different products that, especially SMEs, can utilize to either fund their early stage phase and even their growth. So I think that was the most interesting, let's say, identification of factors.
So the word education is obviously important. So clearly, one of the results that we got from the research was that SMEs need to educate themselves as to what their options are, need to educate themselves as to the different types of options and what is required under each type. And this is specifically what the module seeks to address. If I remember right, there were some results which were quite surprising, particularly the difference between the attitudes of SMEs in different jurisdictions to different products. So that I found quite surprising.
That was one element. The second one, when we first started the project, I'm not sure how much you're familiar with this project. There is a frame based on the application, and then the coordinator and the consortium.
So essentially, the partnership would be, in our case, 5 partners. We applied for funding through a water agency. We were the coordinator, and each of the partners obviously has an equal standing within the project team, and each will be given a particular task, either working together or working alone in order to achieve the objective.
What I wanted to say is that when we first recommended at the kickoff meeting to break the modules into basic, medium. I was like, do we really need this? Do we really need this breakdown in products? But evidently, what there is shown is that we do need different training for the basic products, for the intermediate, and for the advanced, which of course relates to the stage where each company is.
In actual fact, I am, as of the end of the month, I'll be in debt on my pension. So, guys, it's very important to carry on working, okay, and contribute, because what you're contributing is going to pay for my pension. Now it's become a personal issue, okay? No, but joking apart, I've worked in financial services since I joined the bank in 1980. So if you go back to 1980, some of you weren't even born. Some of you were definitely born, you know, but others weren't born. You know, it's a long time, and you get a feel somehow over the years with experience and everything. You know, you get a feel for the market, you get a feel for what people know and what people don't know. And I remember even from the time of when I used to work at the bank. Yeah, there is lack of information, lack of awareness, lack of education. People don't know, you know, and they need help, you know.
Plus, the other thing, although I'm sharing, it will be covered later, but in Bulgaria, how you pinpointed that our target group would not be able to identify the right module unless we gave them a tool which we could present them later.
Which is one of the reasons why we have the money. Okay, I think that covers really this area. Thank you very much, Pambos. And I will now invite Prezaf to join us. In this case, Prezaf will be moderating the questions. If you can, please go on the modules, the 5 modules.
This is the platform.
That's the platform.
If you click on course 1, if you just click on the course, yes, and then you click on the platform.
We're not going to be going through the modules
No,
at this point, but this is an idea of what we're covering. So, press that.
Just a few words about the platform, the modules, how they were developed. First of all, as it's an online educational platform, it's targeted at helping businesses to educate themselves. But also we have to have in mind what it was recently said that the businesses sometimes, as we also the project consortium, need to comply with the fact that the providing of the funding for the project gives some requirements. So our training system, our online platform, was in compliance with the European Qualification Framework and the ECVET system. What does it mean, these abbreviations? It means that what we presented here as a way of training can be easily incorporated in future certification. If you go to, for example, to have a master's degree course at the university, you can say, I have done all these, and this can be recognized as part of your training. Or even some of your employees go to some vet courses that have to upgrade their level of knowledge. They can also use these and can be also recognized because it follows the principles of skills, knowledge, and competences in development of the modules. What I here mean by competences, this is what actually the business wants. So if you go through each of the modules, for example, the very first one, entrepreneurship and financial tool management, it is started to provide what the business people from SMEs at the very first stage of understanding of their business and what they need as financial backup, as financial funding, to how they should understand their situation, what they should focus on, what they should have in mind. So the topics have been deliberately taken in order to comply with these competences that we want to provide to these people and to allow them to upgrade for the next modules and for their future understanding of the more complex financial systems. So that was our target. The online platform, I have to say here, is a Moodle-based one, but it's a modified Moodle platform, so that it allows us to skip out of these functions that are usually made very heavy by the training organizations, with lots of additional things. Because when you have somebody who has really limited time, you cannot hook him with too many tasks and too many additional things like in a form of education, you have to have in mind that this person has to go quickly and to see what he needs, how he needs it, what he should learn about. And that's why we have the platform with all the type of courses available at once at your glance. You can go to pick one of them if you want to particularly focus on this course. For example, the last one, I think it's advanced the more complicated complex funding tools. Why? Because we once again understand from our research, as Pam already explained and Cliff said, that we need to, we have to evaluate, to provide different opportunities for the different needs of the people to be trained or to upgrade their qualification. So whenever a man comes from the real business, from SME, already, she or he has to evaluate what they do need. And for this reason, can I go to the topic as well?
Let's talk about the actual modules themselves,
Okay.
not the specific.
So, just these modules are in line with the self-assessment tool that we can talk a bit later. And this self-assessment tool allows you to see whether you need all the 5 modules or just one of them. And the fact that we have certification, actually a quiz at the end of each module, allows you to have a formal evaluation. This formal evaluation are the grounds. This is the ground for having this training also incorporated if you want in some future training of yourself, if you go to university or go for a better training. And so this is the clue. This is a so-called micro-credential principle involved by the EU authorities, and we have to comply fully with this. Yeah.
If I may talk about the creation of the modules, and not about the modules themselves, the creation of the modules, the 5 topics we chose, were chosen as a result of the survey. So once when we did the research, we realized that this was the needs, these were the needs that we felt the market had in respect of the access to capital education. And these 5 modules were created by different partners, so each partner was responsible for one module based on his experience, etc., etc. But also, besides having each partner creating one module, there was also a backup partner who was reviewing the work of the first partner. So if I created a module, for example, President would have been there to back up and to assess what I have done, to ensure that what I have done is clear and understandable by the audience. We then also made sure that the level of length, complexity, and detail of each of the modules was more or less the same. And that's one of the reasons why we had this assessment between ourselves to ensure that all 5 modules were clear, achieved the objectives of the title, obviously, and was presented in an understandable, clear way. We also entered into a process of review. So all of these 1 modules were shared by a number of our stakeholders, internal as well as external, for them to give us their feedback. And therefore these users were invited to give us feedback, and I'm happy to say that the feedback we received was very, very positive. All the feedback we received was indicated that the job we did in terms of the module creation was fit for purpose.
Also, it helped us to correct ourselves because it's good that we all keep peer reviewing to each other. It gave us the necessary feedback because sometimes, for example, in the academia, we think that something is good, while the business world may consider it not so appropriate or useful. So this was really essential to have this process of communication with the real business world, and we did.
Because this is a European Union project, and because we have the 5 partners from different countries with different languages, as I said before, at the top of the screen there is the language. So if you had to go, this is obviously English today, if we had to go on to one of the other different languages, I hope it will switch into a different language.
Yes, for example, if you go to Bulgaria, to go to this.
Click on Bulgaria, yeah.
Yes.
And you have the same text, but obviously translated, not, I might add, Google Translate. It was translated properly, and it has been reviewed in each language. So for each country, for each language, there is the whole website and all the contents which is reflected in that language.
And because you see periods, and sometimes people say, oh, it's written with Russian letters. No, it's written with Bulgarian letters. The Russian topic is from us. The alphabet, just a joke. Okay.
President is from Bulgaria, okay, so and he will often make references to how much Bulgaria is better than us.
No. But we are proud that we are with you guys in Europe, but not with them. This is my possible remark. Okay,
I think we can conclude. In terms of the modules, I don't know whether there are any questions or any comments on the floor. Really, the idea of this next few minutes is to go to the website and explain the process behind each of the results, each of the deliverables, and then eventually, in about maybe 25 minutes or so, we'll actually go into the modules in detail, and then obviously we'll break at 11:30 with some refreshments outside. Okay. The objective of today, besides obviously showcasing what we've done, is for everybody here to go out and shout into the streets and say, wow, this was amazing. Okay, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, so maybe I exaggerate. But we do ask that if you feel that it's appropriate, please do share this website, share what we've created with your colleagues, with your contacts, maybe with your clients. Obviously go through it first to make sure that you're sharing something which you approve of, but I'm quite confident that we have achieved a result which is easily presented. So this is part of the dissemination process which I would ask you to all share with your stakeholders, etc. So the next, thank you, President. The next topic is the development of the mind map. So Anselmo will be here. So President, you will be moderated here.
Okay. So, maybe I can start with why we did not. Actually, we were working together. So both the job we did together, we joint developed. So before to say something more about the mind map that actually Preslav was introducing, Cliff was introducing as the learning toolkit, the same. I would like to make a step back upon a very important topic to better understand the purpose and the philosophy of the project. And then because it's the base, the background of the mind map, which is really the target group of the project. Yes, of course, we can say three main groups. The small enterprise, very important, extremely important, the family-run business. So we can speak in this case also sometimes, especially in some countries, about the macro enterprise that have a long history, that they work from a long period. And then, of course, the vet experts, the trainer, who they can transfer the knowledge. And this is very important because actually the mind map and the learning toolkit as the training model were based on which is the general and the common characteristic of these target groups, which could be their needs. Because actually, I would like to make an example. A businessman or a small company or a family-run business, maybe he has this company from 50 years. Maybe it was of his father. Like we have a lot of this kind of company also in Italy, of his grandfather. And it's a successful business. He makes some production, doesn't matter which is the production, that is very characteristic. And it's going very well. But as far as you know very well, we saw how the world was changing, for example, with COVID. We are in constant evolution, and everything is changing. And so we have constantly to update our even manner, our approach to make business. And this is meaning that it's very important to constantly update our skill, competence, and knowledge. As Preslav was saying before, this is very important. Actually, the Greek philosopher Socrates say that the man has to learn till his last day of life. And this is absolutely true. And in mind this, it's not, should be used a very specific approach when you address the transfer of some knowledge or the acquisition of some knowledge to a person that has competence in his business. He knows he's not a student. I mean, he's not a young student, but he has to come back to become a student. So we had on mind this with Cliff when we wrote the project proposal, and then with all the partners, where then on the detail we start to implement the project, and this is extremely important. So in this case, the mind map is not telling to the learner which is the module that he has to study. Let's use this terminology to study. But it's giving advice to give an overview to all the training module and to which module to focus much more its attention. So, and this is a kind of self-assessment, because if I have to go to Paris, I have to know, first of all, from which place I start my journey. Otherwise, I cannot arrive there. So the mind map is exactly doing this. It's telling to the person in which place you are, in which place in your skill, knowledge, and competence you feel you are. So it's giving even self-evaluation is extremely useful. More of that is useful to understand its own, let's say, if I can use this terminology, weakness, but also which are your strength. And maybe, and I'm sure by the testing that we did, the mind map is always helping the person, the learner, to better understand maybe some specific, let's say, capacities or let's say skill or competence that even he had not awareness that he could have. This is extremely important thing. Sometimes many businessmen or managers or entrepreneurs, even they have the knowledge, but they don't know that they have, and this is very important. The mind map is always dragging the person through this process to better understand this, and to, in this case, to facilitate the educational process.
Just to show, if you please click on the capital investment onto the right, yes, here, it will show you a few sets of indicators by which you can evaluate where you stand by just clicking on low or high value of this indicator. You don't have to fill any particular value, because the easiest way to scare an audience, I know it for students, you know it for your colleagues, is to show too much statistical data, too complex analysis, and to mind boggle them in order just to look very smart. We don't want to make the people from this world feel depressed by what we did. We want to be helpful. That's why each of these three pillars or three directions, capital investment, target growth, financial strength, are the things that the SMEs really are concerned with. This really matters something to them. So by clicking on each of these three directions, three pillars of targeting where they would like to go, you can evaluate yourself and actually see what you need or what you do not need and where you would go, right? So.
Yes, exactly. Preslav as a professor and with his big, enormous knowledge, even because he was participating in the process of creating this, he could much better to describe technically. But what I have to adjust a bit, that once you make this choosing and it's driving to this process, without using any kind of, let's say, artificial intelligence, right?
Your
No.
natural intelligence.
Yes, then the mind map can select and give you to make for you a self-assessment and to tell you where you have to focus, where you have to go. But once again, I would like to say, it's not meaning that, okay, it's meaning that I have not to pay any kind of attention to the other training model. No, it's always very good to give an overlook, let's say. And I think this is an extremely useful and dynamic tool that can support the learner even having less time to dedicate to facilitate his process of self-development, of updating his skill and competence and knowledge. And this is extremely important because one of the topics that we strongly consider when we develop this, all the partners considered, that we had in mind, as Cliff said, but also Pampos said, is underlying this fact more than one time, that if our business or owner of a company, they have not so much time. So the things that are used to be straight to the point. It's what we try to be, and I suppose that we did, and it's very important. So in all the steps, when we develop each kind of work package, each kind of task in this project, we always have on mind, we strongly took into consideration which is the target group and which are their potential needs. And this is very important.
Here I would like to add once again that the development of the mind map was also facilitated by the results that we had from the initial study on the target groups, then with the testing of the platform itself by our stakeholders, because with the feedback and with what we had already received from the study, we could develop this mind map once again with a focus to what the people from the SMEs would need. So I think we can go for the next.
So the next one is the toolkit, which I said we're taking care of.
Okay.
We're working together.
Yes, actually, the learning toolkit, once again, we developed together. Preslav was giving this academic, support, not only in development,
Actually, it's not
approval.
it was developed by him, the toolkit. I and my people, we developed the platform.
Yes.
So we were obliged to work together, of course, with the help of the rest of the project partners.
But Preslav also developed with his teams also the technical part of the toolkit. This is very important. So, the e-learning toolkit, everybody knows what is the learning toolkit. So it's let's say, an usual common learning toolkit, based on two different approaches. The first one, once again, which is the target group? So something to facilitate the learning process of the learner. The second one, of course, is related to the project contents, so the training model and all the related issues. The learning toolkit was based, of course, to give information and to drive the learner how to access to the platform, how to use the platform, how to manage the different facilities, and so on. The other important thing that the e-learning toolkit contains several insights that can give to the learner the opportunity even to go broader to a certain topic for studying with case studies and so on. How and when to make again the self-assessment process. I mean, one is pass from one module to another one to understand, okay, which result till now I got. Is it okay? Did I really acquire this knowledge? And did I really develop this kind of competence and skill? So it was driving, is giving the opportunity even to better drive the learner in different steps. So maybe giving suggestions also through these tools, self-assessment tools, maybe where to stop it, to put more attention. The learning toolkit, even it's made to be dynamic, not to be so static, and to offer to the learner the opportunity to really develop and improve constantly is a learning process, especially outside certain time scheme, so totally free to use, and this is connection even with the platform, of course. What can I add in this?
I think we can scroll through the document to see how it looks like. It's available also on the website of the project, so it's an interactive document. We can go to the different parts of it, and it's really a use for the people who would like to build a platform to make advantage of it. It is something which also adds to this evaluation process of the mind map. So together, these two items, two results, for the self-assessment and for judging what you should take out as an advantage from the platform.
Just to add something that also there's a part of the target group is also the web provider. It's meaning trainer that working in some training institution, especially for adult, for let's say manager, for entrepreneurs, and so on. How they can use it, even this, if they want to enlarge their, let's say, training offer or their kind of consulting, mentoring, coaching, support to entrepreneur. So is thought the learning toolkit as the training model so to be addressed, let's say, to the needs of the first target group, so the entrepreneurs, managers, owners of the small business or small company, and from the other side to the, let's say, vet experts that works in this context.
And the last thing that I would like to add, which is helpful probably for the future educational organization that can also make use of the platforms of web providers and so on. All that you see in the platform is actually the content, educational content that is user-friendly, provided to the persons that are in the platform, the future persons that are going to have this training. However, we have this educational content also in a very formal way, developed as educational modules with all the elements that is required by the European qualification framework, by ECVET system, and so on. Why we need this, and this is also available on the platform of the Erasmus Plus program at the end of the project. This is needed in order so that the future users of our results can also do all these things that Anselmo already described and he meticulously pointed them in the learning toolkit and also in this future potential for using by the web providers. Right?
Exactly. Because the last point that both the training models, both the initial critical assessment and then the learning toolkit, the mind map was taking in, they were thought and developed having in mind to ensure a long-term sustainability. It's meaning their use could be even from very practical point of view, not just for the project, but to be used by all the potential users, even for a long term after the project ends. Of course, after time will be needed to be updated, with new financial tools, it will be and so on. But this is a very important base, and the base of this project result is really can assure long-term sustainability because the scheme, the framework, how it was constructed, is something that can work for a long time.
For this part, we also go.
you very much. President Montour.
Okay.
Okay, so we're now, actually, we're just 10 minutes ahead of time, so we're doing okay. We're doing really well. Till now, we've given an overview of the project, its objectives, the website, how it's structured. So this is something that any of you can join and look at the website in your own time. From now on, for the next hour and 15 minutes, we're going to go into the individual modules. Okay, so this is the meat and potatoes, if you like, because it is the modules which we created, which I would hope, like I'm convinced, are going to be very useful to the users in order to understand the different subjects addressed by the 5 different modules. The first module is entrepreneurship and financial tools management. So that's you. We need to go back there, okay? That's it. Course 1. That's it. Okay. So entrepreneurship. This was created by the Southwest University in Sofia, in Bulgaria. They've got huge levels of expertise in this area. Sorry, and Anselmo as well, because they're both based in Sofia, so obviously they work very closely together. My apologies, Anselmo.
Well, we are not all based in Sofia. Southwest University is in the southwest part of Bulgaria, but it's 1 hour and 50 minutes drive by car, and actually this is not a problem. There are different places. We work closely together with Anselmo. The module itself is based on the new. If you click on topic 1, you see that it has the first topic. Here it has this entrepreneurship management. It provides some information of what really entrepreneurship is and what is the principle and the main guiding principle of management for entrepreneurship. Sorry for my pronunciation. Sometimes I'm speaking too fast and I'm eating the words, especially in English. Please forgive me for this. So here we put this based on what we usually do for our projects and our work with the business. We were tempted to put too much references. This is actually the small version without too much reference. This is not to sound too much academic. Yes, of course.
No, because the other models will explain all
But we work together.
So it's not. I want to just to support him. Otherwise, it will be very okay. It's a professor, so it's an academic. He's used to speak and to explain very well. So the model is the first model based on entrepreneurship management. So it's the base, let's say, step that each entrepreneur, even for somebody that is not an entrepreneur but wants to become an entrepreneur, has a project idea, how to make this follow up and then to develop. Actually, the process is very similar to what Ms. Portelli was explaining, how they work with the Enterprise European Network. And then she underlined that there are common topics and factors with our project. So in this case, this first module is giving the main tools and knowledge to the learner how to manage the company from different point of view, even not its own production, how to manage the production, but all the process, the life cycle of an enterprise. That are the different components of the management. Taking also in consideration the marketing aspects that are very important, how then to enter in its market, how to identify, how to choose which are the market where he has to enter according to his production, and which are the best approach to be used, how to enter in this market. So even several marketing, let's say, tools and knowledge to be transferred. And this is the first, it's the base, it's the background, because if he has no idea or has not a clear framework how to should be managed the company, even when it's making a business plan for a new production or for some new investment, he cannot go directly to the capital access to understand which are, the financial results that he needs. He has to understand much better how the management and how to plan future investments.
Yes, and because we're not, so we didn't need to make a profound course only on entrepreneurship and to really educate this person from the scratch, because we understand that mostly of our future users will be persons who already work, who like to become entrepreneurs, but they are already in the business. So in this way, we can stay here, we start better. Don't just go away. So the next topics here, topic 2, topic 3, were concerned with the financial management, with these values, for example, how to evaluate financial tools, how to make judgment, what to take, how to make this initial assessment, some of the very basic methods to evaluate different financial tools. Because sometimes in the big textbooks that I use in academia, they are sounding very academic, very stable, but if you have to apply them in practice, sometimes you stare at what is this, how should I do something like this? I remember when someone told me told you about marketing issues, that for example, a very simple issue can appear in front of a businessman, how to make a sample where he's making or she is making a questionnaire study, how to evaluate how many responses he or she should have. It's an easy question if you know one of those very simple process. But if you read big textbooks, you may get very upset because they're too big formulas. We don't want to have this. That's why when we presented these financial tools, we focus on the most applicable method that could be used without making the person go crazy with formulas and indicators. Of course, if he needs a more profound data analysis or assessment or a risk analysis, he may go further and further. He may get enrolled in the Maltese University. I had a friend of mine who is a professor there. So you can do this, but we didn't mind this. So we set here, for example, the future value of the real value or the present value of the future cash flow. So such not so complex methods, but they are crucial to understand which one of the financial tools we can take, because you cannot shoot a sparrow with a cannon. You can shoot it with a rifle, which is much cheaper than a big cannon. And that's why you can need just a simple financial tool, simpler one, than the more complex one. If you have really a need for example, these methods show that you will receive a better return on your investment by using these more complex methods, then you have to go and use them. That was the initial meaning of this very first module. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if you can go to the next, because there are different areas which have been covered by this module. So if you go to the next one, the topic 3. So here we're talking about the active sources of funding. So we take the earnings, the debts,
It's a very simplified picture of the sources, but you have to explain to somebody who is not deeply involved in financial matters where he can search for money, how he can get them. That's why we need it. And also, please guys have in mind that in some countries like Bulgaria, some of the people from the real world do not have this experience that you guys have for generations. Why? Because we have these 45 years of another economic system that sees everything. Our financial capital market is just now 45 years, almost 40 years after the collapse of communism, recovering to get to the levels of 1949. What we have.
some of the knowledge that we take for granted here simply doesn't exist abroad, essentially, in some countries, obviously. And the idea of this and the other modules is to have it in plain English, as Petras was saying earlier. It's something which anybody can read in the leisure of their, at work or even at home, and something that you can browse through at your leisure, and it's easily understandable. And that was one of the principles that we wanted to stress when we created the different modules. I'm not sure whether there's another topic in terms of main content.
That's the conclusion, something that helps you in every module. Then, of course, you can follow it. If you want to go deeper and deeper and read more and more, please help yourself. We offer these references. And of course, the quiz.
Yeah, you can click on the quiz.
Yes. So you can see the these are the form that you can choose multiple answers, and then if you complete the quiz, it evaluates how many correct answers, what you need to focus, it gives you cyber feedback where you can continue with your studies or reading if you need some more information and so on.
So this module, in terms of structure, all of the modules have the same structure. So really it is introduction, different course contents, different subjects, the reading, quiz, and maybe other references, etc. And the idea was for each of the modules to be very simple, very straightforward, really usable by the public, by anybody who's interested in using them. The quiz is not a hugely demanding, quiz, but it's just an indicator for the user to understand, to accept whether they have understood the concepts behind the module or not. Okay, so if we can switch to, I don't know if there's anything you would like to add to this particular module.
No, I think we said enough already.
Okay, so the second module is about understanding financial reporting and business planning. This was created by Exeo, who are our Italian partners. As I said, they were unable to join us today, but it's going to be presented by Henri and will be also supported by Bambos in terms of subject. Press that. You're monopolizing this today.
Well, I'm very happy that I have an audience that really knows.
That's
Professor, I have an audience like opium, like drugs. People listening to you to start talking.
No.
Thank you. Are you sure? I hope. Mamus, are you trying to start or
I think Bambos can give an introduction.
Okay, great.
It's on.
Okay, so President, this module is evidently about the importance of understanding financial reporting in business and business planning, and why financial reporting and business planning is important for our target groups, which, just as a reminder, includes SMEs, family businesses, entrepreneurs, startups.
Yes, and why it is important? Because if a company, a small business would like to grow, it should, when this business is interacting with its financial tools, with the middle complex and the long complex ones, it has to publish financial reports. It has also, if they want to have funding from institutions, they need also to see what are in their reports. What are the requirements for these reports? How this report should be read? Because if you just look without any previous experience, you cannot understand anything if you don't have any backup. And especially if you have to go, for example, to the capital market, to the more organized stock exchange capital market, then you have to follow certain rules. You have to write your prospectus. You have to write to provide information. This information has to be certified by an auditor and so on, certified auditor. All these sometimes sound like Chinese language to ordinary persons. So we needed to give them information, what this means, what are the basic principles, that it's not so scary to have an audited report, for example, what is the purposes of this report, what they do present to the general public or to the financial specialists, what you should emphasize when you're preparing such kind of report. Because, for example, in my country, the SMEs usually are very, how to say, very keen on hiding taxes and having a double-side accounting, one for the official authorities, one for themselves. But when you need to have some money from outside, you have to be clear. You have to show the value of your business. So how to do this? How to in order to achieve a proper financial report, a viable one, what you should do. So we, with the help of our Italian colleagues, tried to develop this module with this purpose. And we hope that we succeeded because there are different types of reports that are mentioned inside this slide. The principle of reporting, financial reporting, of verifying, of presenting them to the auditors, also publishing them, because it is also a need, this openness and clearness of the financial reporting to have the access to the market is a necessary step before getting the financial tools. Yes, you have to have the initial understanding of entrepreneurship and financial management. Then you should know how to prepare your report in order to get access to the financial markets at different levels. And that's the internal logic that promotes the creation of this model.
Plus, we cannot, I guess that it's one of the few things not the few, one of the things in our work that relates both to regulatory and legal obligations,
Yes.
not only in terms of growing your business and finding investors.
And with the e-governance that has been introduced in most of the European countries, we are now obliged to provide financial reports online. So they're more and more, but they easily checked by the authorities. And this is also something that the small business need to know, how they should manage all this, how they should control their financial reporting. Because sometimes when they provide something which is, let's say, manipulated, the information that is already provided is still online. It's there, either in the tax declarations or in the statements of their bank accounts or whatever they have. So it's there. Okay, maybe if you have any questions for this module, maybe we can go to the first
Slow down. We're not in a huge hurry. We're faster than okay. If I may just say a few words, just a couple of things. When it comes to financial statements, we actually at the institute we actually have a course which is given by an accountant. I believe it's about 6 hours long, and it is understanding financial statements. And what the accountant does is he goes to the different financials, the balance sheets, income statement, cash flow, and really links them together. And he explains in this course, and this is something we try to replicate over here, but in a simple way. It explains the importance of using ratios, for example, and understand, because when people look at financial statements, they tend to look at the bottom line. What is the profitability? Okay, what's the EBIT or whatever it is? And it's not the only thing. You know, the financial statements give a picture of the performance of that particular organization over a period of time or at a point in time, giving indications of its net asset value, giving indications of its turnover, and therefore the turnover as a function of other areas, as a function of cost, as a function of capital employed, and looking at the earnings as a percentage of turnover. These are all indicators, these are all ratios, which allows one to understand the company, but also allows one to compare that company with other organizations. Okay, so financial statements, which are very often looked at with a bit of fear, what we tried to do was demystify the financial statement process and let people, users, learners, understand the different concepts of the financial statements and what are behind numbers. Okay, and I think that's very important, especially in a business environment, because obviously these statements are important, especially when you're going to be using these statements, when the SME owner is going to be using these statements to approach an organization for funding or to approach the market for funding. Okay, so obviously this is going to be a picture that's going to give confidence, one would hope, to your investors, be they the bank or be they individuals, the individual investors. Okay. In terms of time, we're actually now 10:30. I think we're going to be finishing a little bit early today, so that's okay. The next one is the access from now on, the three modules are going to address the three different levels of products: the simple, medium, and complex level of financial products. Okay, so the next one is going to be Pambos and Anselmo, talking about simple level financial products. Yes? Okay. This was, you may go, yes. The product, this particular module was prepared by Raj from Meta 4 in Austria. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here specifically because in Austria they have big problems with the floods and the transport because of the storm that hits the area of the next last few days, and he was unable to join us. So, Anselmo was smoking. That's very good.
Okay, I can be Anselmo.
No, you can't be Anselmo. Anselmo can be Anselmo. You're talking about the module of Raj. No, we're changing things.
No, not changing. It's me once again.
No, it's not you. No. Can someone talk about this? Thank you. So, you go to module 3.
So, welcome back. Yes.
Okay, we discussed module 3, which is access and use of simple level financial products.
Okay. In this case, is the basic, let's say, knowledge and skills that are related to the financial tools that should be chosen by the entrepreneurs once he has identified his needs to develop its own business or its new project. In this case, the level is the base one. As Cliff said on the beginning of the conference, could be related to several basic, let's say, tools, financial tools, as loans and so on. This is the base even that is related not only to the financial needs of the company, but which are especially the initial step that he has to take into consideration, even which could be the cash flow that he needs to sustain its own business activities, not only to develop the project or an investment, for example, but which is the cash flow when it can arrive to its break-even points for its investment. So which are the basic and the pillars, financial tools that could be used for its access? Or maybe just because this project, wait a second, Preslav, let me finish, are not so, let's say, articulated, are not so complex, and so can be, let's say, it can respond to these needs with the basic financial tools. It doesn't need to go to more complex and articulated instruments that can be even more difficult than to manage. Would you like to say something?
Just to say, I cannot resist. I just go beside me. We once again this module. Why we included this simple financial products? It's because what we see from the feedback from the business, from the SMEs in Bulgaria, and also in Greece, because we are very connected with the Greek economy, and they have been heavily hit by the financial crisis they had with the Brexit, which didn't happen, thanks God, and then the COVID and so on. Their enterprises have severe problems with these simple financial tools as well, with small and medium-sized enterprises. They try to escape from the hardships they had in Greece by allocating their offices in Bulgaria. So most of the SMEs in Bulgaria are actually Greek SMEs as well. And they also need a special education on these modules. On this module, especially how to access when you have a bad history in Greece. And the problem is that the Greek banks are also the banks in Bulgaria, because they're very connected, they're on the same banks. So I'll give once again the microphone.
Yes, it's correct, but in this case we have the Cyprus.
Yeah.
The Cyprus are not Greek, is it correct?
Yes, very good.
Very correct. So, did I get a free dinner in a Cyprus?
You keep confusing me with the Greek.
No, I'm not. I'm saying about the situation in Bulgaria. With our results.
No, but it's true. All the guys I know in Greece, they either have an SME or an NGO registered in Bulgaria.
The only thing, as Preslav said before, that in Greece there are many companies, many family-run business companies that maybe has an old tradition, that maybe they work from even more than 100 years. Unfortunately, this in Bulgaria there is not anymore. Is it correct?
Yes, for historical reasons.
For historical reason, now we don't enter in this historical discussion.
Political.
Political, okay. So, even the choosing, as Preslav said, because he underlined an extremely important point that is related to which are the needs and which is the background of the different jurisdiction where we were for which we were developing these learning models. That we took even in consideration this point as a project approach, just to take in consideration which are the real needs. So different jurisdiction, different needs. It's not possible to make one understanding, because yes, if we calculate that a small business, a family-run business, doesn't matter if it's in Spain, in Cyprus, in Bulgaria, in Italy, and so on, more or less they will have common problems. To these common problems, they can have different cultural approach how to solve this problem. But then we have to enter much more in details, because maybe in one country have a more longer tradition in the business, and as I said before, maybe an owner or a family-run business, he knows very well how to manage it, to develop his own business. But he has no awareness about this knowledge. He doesn't know how to fit this knowledge in which kind of framework. So the purpose also to develop all the training models, and especially the first one, this first one in the third one actually, it was to drive the learner in this better understanding.
Hello? So, now we'll be talking.
In terms of small enterprises that are into technology-related industries. So we have remote working as a trend at this point in time, where everyone is working from different virtual offices.
It's better if you.
Better it is.
Yeah, I think so.
No, no. Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if it's on. Basically, what are we doing for the kind of emerging technology-related companies? We have a lot of remote working trends, virtual offices, Microsoft, Apple are creating digital systems where you can literally log on to a platform. You have a virtual office. There's a game zone, so during your break, if you have members of your workforce in different countries, you can play a game online digitally on that platform. So they have no physical presence or tangible assets on their sheets. At the same time, they're in a technology-related space, so most of their assets are in terms of IP. So what are we doing, or what are your insights from the experts here? How we can tackle access to finance fairly in this sector? Because it's the main thing that I haven't come down to.
maybe you skipped the first presentation about half an hour ago. Of course, different companies, not only about which kind of business they develop, but about even which kind of approach. Maybe they have not real, let's say, not really in a formal way, but with distance working and so on. What we do to understand exactly which could be their needs, because the needs of this company is totally different from a manufacturing company that has a factory.
The needs could be an overdraft, in which case the bank rejects. It could be a bank loan, in which case the bank rejects. It could be European funding in terms of a software, in which case IP is still rejected. So there is no access to finance in this sector, because there is no tangible asset linked to pre-financing. So everything is retrospective. So you have to spend first and claim it back, yes. But that doesn't give any fairness to this sector in terms of cash flow or access to finance effectively.
Maybe it's a little unlucky, the situation.
I think I understand your point. The thing is that, like, most of the small companies who are operating in the way you're mentioning, they don't need that much capital. No, they said that they're not manufacturing. What the point was that they're not manufacturing, so the amount of capital that they require may be less, and they don't have the assets to back the loan or the funding that they need, and you're being asked to provide that kind of security. Is that what?
So they ask for valuations
Exactly.
that are done by big four companies, so they are reputable entities doing valuations, but this is still not enough.
I understand your point, and that is true. I think, but that's apart from this project, because this is a tool to help you identify what you need. But when it comes to us in Malta, you're saying,
I'm saying
as well.
It's a problem everywhere.
Okay.
Except for investors that need to bear. So I can't have cash flow unless I sell my company.
Just to say, perhaps we can take this conversation outside of here after, because I know what you mean, and there may be a source to fund, but in Malta, the things are unknown. You know, and you don't know where to. Sorry, you don't know where to tap. In fact, that's what Marta Sportelli was saying here.
There are a couple of calls like the EIC, European Innovation Council, that they do fund innovative ideas or new technologies. But you're right.
Research though, not commercial.
EIC is a
So the
bit
problem is to
commercial.
find here in business, not on research.
Sorry, just to answer. First of all, what we do is with the mind map. The mind map is a tool that will give one better understand which could be exactly the knowledge that you have to acquire and which are then exactly the financial tools that you have to combine for your specific needs. It's okay. So we give the opportunity to have a clear overview of a plenty of financial opportunity. But let's say we identify there is an opportunity for a loan, for example, or for an equity, okay? But we give you also the knowledge and the expertise how to construct this business plan, how you have to submit to them to be successful. But we have not the magic key that we can give you that you can go to a bank to get the loan for your specific. This is a different point, because have in mind an important point that this is an European project. We took in consideration different jurisdiction, and in each jurisdiction, in each country, there is, let's say, even from a bank or from a capital investment or whatever, a different approach to evaluate and to sustain the small business. So what is working maybe in Cyprus is not working in Bulgaria or in Malta. What is working in Italy is different from Austria in this case. So this specific then approach that the bank or whatever can use to finance the company is totally different.
Some,
Yes.
I was thinking once again. As far as understand her question, please correct me because I heard your last words from the corridor. Was the way to find funding for SMEs for which don't have that much history or want to start a bright idea.
No tangible assets.
Okay, okay. There are different approach for this that exists as funding schemes, not only by private, not from the private sector, but on the EU level. There are programs that are especially targeted to this, but there are two levels. First, on the European level, once again, depending on country to country, this is the European Regional Development Fund. And within this fund, you have by different countries, for example, there is Interact for the Mediterranean countries. There,
The ERDF are retrospective, so they are not refinancing. So the issue here is access to finance, cash flow.
okay, what they can, this fund, also another, there could be national programs with EU funding, they can be for business incubators. The business incubator schemes can be applied either for this, creating a project that stimulates such kind of companies. This was introduced in Bulgaria and Greece in our cross-border cooperation, but this was again a matter of political decision by the national jurisdictions. Or another level, once again, for the Erasmus Plus program, that the top segment of the Erasmus Plus program is the alliance of universities. The alliance of university allows, because these are huge budgets, so let's say a project is of 12, 40, 20 or 40 million euros, to have side funding for business incubators sustained by the universities. This model is in the Netherlands. They have, for example, one or two universities that have their own business incubators for companies that are set by the students, have no history, no assets. They provide offices for them, they provide funding for this.
I'm saying these are not students, these are business owners.
They are business owners for 7, 8 years and use the premises of the university also.
Maybe we can ask
Yes.
exactly what the exactly is, so we can ask.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
No, if I may, if I may.
But not for students or research
Yes.
projects that
Yeah.
can be compared
Look,
to
I think-
fully fledged technology-related business.
If I may,
That's our point.
what you've described is a brave new way. Okay, the systems are changing. The way we do business is changing. The way businesses are set up and they're operating is changing. The problem is, and I acknowledge that it is a problem, that the banking sector, which is the primary source of funding for businesses, have not evolved to meet this new demand. Now, this is for me outside the banking sector. Okay, I used to work at the bank, no longer, but it's reality. Now, the bank has a duty of care, and everybody acknowledges this, to lend money based on risk assessments, based on the likelihood of being repaid, and fundamentally, and the last resort is to have a secured position so that if the payment is not repaid, there is something to fall back on. That is the last resort. The idea of the bank is not to lend money so that I can take your property, obviously. However, the situation you've described, which is very real, because it's something that's happening, because see people coming out of university or entrepreneurs who don't even have a university degree, entering into this type of environment, working in the service industry, using technology as an enabler. But then if you look at the balance sheet, there's nothing. There's nothing. And the problem is that the banks are not geared in terms of attitude or even risk assessment to be able to assess this type of request. So I accept it's a very real problem.
Because it's a fairness thing, so it's spirit of an industry which is evolving.
Absolutely. Now there are areas of support which have been mentioned. There's, for example, the guarantee scheme of the Water Development Bank, the Jeremy, etc. I don't know how successful, how appropriate it is. Exactly, that's the one. Yes. Maybe possibly small amounts. I don't know. Those might be areas of support. But it's all exactly. The problem is collateral, and this is the problem not only for these type of businesses.
It's a matter of if we trust
How do you value it? How do you value it?
There is
the trust
May I add
It's a
something?
problem. It's a problem.
Actually, there are standards, national accounting standards, and national standards like in France for accounting intellectual property and individual skills, abilities, and so on of such type of businesses. There is such a national standard, which, for example, French banks use some of these national standards, and there are several tools for calculating this value of what you have in your company as a team. And Bulgarian banks, because we have the highest rate of millionaires in the IT sector. We are always were very good in IT in the communist time. And that's why our banks, what they use as a collateral the contracts for future earnings. If, for example, you're going to supply some technology to the ministry, whatever ministry of transportation, brand new database system or some interactive platform, whatever you want to design, and you don't have the money, you can sign a contract. If you sign a contract, if you're awarded a contract based on your CVs, you can go to a bank and put this contract as a collateral. So this is a way to escape from having physical assets. And there are other examples. I won't go into details because I'm really playing monopolizing conversation as usual. So I'm stopping.
But to be fair, the question, and obviously thank you for your comment and for your question, is outside the scope of fairness, in the sense that the objective of fairness as a project was to educate people into the different types of access to capital and what they will need to access this type of capital. This accounting you're describing falls within, but at the end of the day, the word collateral still comes up, especially when you go to the banks. You know, there was a time when the bank used to be able to lend unsecured for a number of reasons and up to a certain point. Today, forget it. Today it's all credit scoring. Today it's all put the numbers into the computer and then the computer will say yes or no. Actually, I'm exaggerating, perhaps, and I'm being a little bit cruel to the banks. But the reality is that the banks are more and more risk averse. If you look at the amount of lending as a percentage of deposits, it used to be 85%, very close to the statutory limit. Today, if you look at the statistics, 52-56%. So 56% of the deposits are being lent. The remaining is either funds or deposits with central bank. Why? Because the banks are either faced with requests which do not meet their standards, or requests from sectors which they don't want to be too exposed to, obviously for risk aversion purposes, or else, you know, they are risk averse against certain types of requests. And there are, yes, agreed, but the regulatory requirements are that they have risk weighting in terms of the sector exposure. It's a complex issue, and I don't want to simplify it. But the reality is that if you go to the bank and you have a weak balance sheet, a weak net asset position, and little to no collateral, the chances are that you're going to get a loan. The chances are, you know, that's the reality. You know, the banks need to wake up to the fact that if they're only lending 55% of their deposit portfolio, and they're therefore losing out on lending 30% of their business, and therefore earning interest, earning margins, etc. You know, how willing are they to lend that 30%? And to whom? And under what criteria? And I can't answer that, and I don't think that we can answer this. You know, unfortunately. But I mean, you know, it is reality. And I think that in time, the business community and the financial sector has to wake up to this reality. Because, as you say, there are more and more people, more and more entrepreneurs entering into this type of arrangement, offering valuable services, high value-added services, profitable services, but which have this issue in terms of startup and refinancing. I think that's
So, back to module 4. So, in module 4, we're going to address the use of medium-level financial products. And Pambos, I would like to ask, in your opinion, what are the main funding problems for SMEs, which I think we discussed to some extent.
We discussed it.
Definitely. But let's look at it from a more diverse aspect in the sense that this project firms is all about the SMEs within the EU. So, in your opinion, the problems that SMEs and startups face, are they similar? Do you find any common aspects in this regard?
Do we have time?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Tell me more.
No, I'm going to share a funny story first. I got off the plane yesterday, I opened the phone, and I received a WhatsApp message. It's, and it reads, it's England, I have to ask you some questions tomorrow. Okay, something is wrong here, the police. But then I realized it was Stephanie who was kind enough to give me a heads up for today's conversation. Okay, if I may ask your name? You. Jess. Okay, Jess. So I think that we discussed first tendency, or we had first hand what are the problems faced by SMEs and startups, or startups and SMEs. Financing your either your growth or your early stages is very difficult. As Steve already said, banks will usually ask for a financial statement. I think it's 3 or 5 years back in order to give even a basic overdraft. If you don't have financial statements, they will need some guarantee, personal guarantees, or you will get penalized with a very high finance ratio. Interest rate. So I think that both startups and SMEs at their growth stage, which I think is around the third or fourth year, they do face the same issues because they don't have financial statements, they don't have sufficient liquidity unless they have some big investor behind them. So yeah, it's a big challenge for all of them, so for both, let's say, categories to receive finance.
Both categories, yes. And I think even EU-wide, they are facing the same thing, especially as Jessica was.
They're going to other jurisdictions.
Yes.
Dubai, where you need essentially nothing and have access to finance as well. So the technology movements are no longer staying in EU because it's not beneficial.
So that perhaps is something
but there is another element, Jessica, that we didn't. I read a few weeks ago that the thing with the intellectual property rights or the patents, you have the big techs, Microsoft, Google, SAP, whomever, that when they see a patent that they feel that it's either threatening them or could be a competitor, they go and buy it. So banks are very reluctant to bank you, let's say, based on an IP you have, even if it's a big four that has validated it. So I fully understand your question.
Frustration.
Or frustration, yeah.
More time.
Yeah. So most SMEs are family businesses. At least they start off as family businesses. Do you believe that it's important to try and match the capital needs with that of the particular company, with that of particular business? I believe this module, I don't know, I think that's what it's all about. The importance of matching the type of financing that you want.
One of the things we came across, the findings we came across, is that if you don't make the right finance decision, you will end up either giving a lot of your shares to an investor because you are anxious to bring in capital, or a big portion of your profits, or a big part of your, not big part, or share your decision making. So you give somebody a smaller amount a smaller part in your company, but they can make decisions for you. So that comes from your company's vision, mission, where you want to go in terms of technology or whatever. So it's very important. We thought the limitations that we have as European Union, as Jessica said, but again, building on what Cliff said and the lady about the risk weighting and the regulators, I think, let's say the whole Western world, if we can call it, has an issue with how to finance startups, innovative companies, etc. Because at the end of the day, what the banks want to ensure through their portfolio of loans that they have is the repayment ability that they will, if a depositor comes in today and says, okay, I want my 200 euros or 2 million euros now, that they will be able to pay her or him. So the repayment ability always kicks in decisions, innovative companies, new ideas, which is the reality and
That's true, and even as you said, it might, the fact that you will be giving a share of your company to an outsider might, it depends the amount of shares you're going, but if they are decision makers, then it might sway from the original objective of the company. So yes, I understand.
if you read, for example, the articles about how venture capital or investment banks work, they may give you more money or they may take less profit, but they want more seats on your board, more control. Which at one point it will collide one way or the other with where you really want to go. So,
and the fact that was also mentioned by Dr. Portelli earlier, I don't know if you were here, and the fact that, like, control, you want to, and the Maltese company, she said, tends to see what source of funding there is, and they work the other way around, when in fact it should be, the opposite. You should start from what you want as a company, you have your own vision and plan, and then you see where you can tap in order to get the capital needed.
To the defense of the European Commission, I don't know if you've heard about this, there are these new codes, they're called PCP. Have you heard of them? Pre-commercial procurement. Basically, it's the efforts of the European Commission to support both the public sector and innovative companies to work together towards developing something new. So a company that has an innovative product can go to, I don't know, the auditor general or the attorney general and tell them, okay, we have this product that may help you improve your operation or do this and that, and they apply together for a grant. It's okay, it's not something wow, but it's something.
They're doing it for mobility, for electrical car infrastructure.
Not only, yeah, that was, now they have, you can do anything you want now. You can apply for anything you want.
Not something for the industry in general, not for medicine.
Okay,
But I work a lot with startups and
yes, you were speaking about companies that does not ask to guarantee the eventual development. For example, in Italy, okay, I don't make you an example for the startup, but for a certain, let's say, strategic new sector, business sector, there is opportunity to take the loan, a loan with, let's say, a good interest, not the market interest. And beside that, before, there is a special agency, but even at a regional level, because in Italy, even the region has their own instrument and agency, that they give you the loan. So they give you first the loan, by which you can go to certain bank to give as a guarantee to get the funds.
Let MDB here.
Exactly.
They,
Exactly. Exactly. And this is beyond. So the instrument exists. There are. In this case, this is maybe the answer, the solution. So
that's one entity on a local government.
MDP does have some. That's why I told you let's talk after and we can explore about that. I heard.
No coffee break.
No coffee. No coffee. We are not in Bulgaria. Yeah, they work.
I think we've addressed the issues of the problems that companies, small SMEs, may are often facing when it comes with respect to funding. So I'm not going to ask you the questions that I have given you the heads up yesterday. So I'm going to go through the last question, which, I don't know, in my opinion, in governance, plays an important part as to how SMEs present themselves when it comes to access funding. So, in your opinion, governance, how important is it when it comes to actually convincing investors about the financial things that SMEs need?
I think that governance is becoming one of the most important things in convincing investors and banks. For example, in Cyprus, we have these there are small grants that you can apply to get like 15 or 20 or 30,000 euros from the Republic for digitalizing their operations. And even for this amount, they're asking you to see what is the structure of your company. So even if it's a company with 5 individuals, 5 members, they want to see if you have some reporting lines, who reports to who approves, let's say, payments, stuff like that. So I believe governance is becoming extremely important, and as we discussed earlier, especially when you go to venture capitals, they will, this is in quotes, it's if you want it, they will force you, or they will ask to establish a board of directors, they will have the majority, and all the decisions will pass, not all of them, but pass through the board. So yeah, I mean, starting and having in mind how your company will grow with some checks and balances, because governance is all about checks and balances. At the same time, in larger organizations, governance helps to have strategic thinking, exchange of ideas, challenging each other. I read one of the reports for Lehman Brothers. It was the culture that was created was the head culture. So I would say applying for Erasmus is a good idea. And because I was likable within the board, everyone, yeah, let's go for Erasmus.
I think that is
So there was no challenging. It was a head culture. Everyone was following the leader or each other. So that's why in boards we have a European Central Bank asking to have independent directors and directors who don't even have a bank account with the bank. So things are moving in that direction. Now, how it will actually help? It's a challenge, especially at the early stages, and again, even the growth. I think finding a way or the right channels to acquire some or raise capital, as they say, people who are in the investment banking sector, it's very crucial. And unfortunately, there is no magic stick that will tell us how. It's a combination of things.
It's true, but I understand what you said about Lehman Brothers because it's a fact that sometimes there's no challenges. And it's important, I think, in an organization, however small or big it is, that people challenge each other in order to make the best out of it and get the best possible solution. Because sometimes this culture of saying yes, restricts the company as well. So I agree with you on that. From my end on this module, I think we'll do that. So it's now to module 5.
Okay, so now we're entering the last module, the one about complex instruments, which was created by the Institute, by the Malta Stock Exchange Institute, obviously because we work in this area. After this module, we can bring today's session to a close, and we'll have refreshments outside. Anybody wants to stay over? So anyway, we can yes.
So it's my turn again to ask you the questions, and I'm not going to say what we're going to talk about because we already did. So perhaps you can describe why are we saying that there are complex products? How can we describe?
When we were looking at different solutions, we identified the capital market, so issuing of bonds or equity to the market as being a source of capital, obviously. However, this is not something which every organization can apply for a number of reasons. And we refer to these as complex because in order to access the capital markets, one needs to have a number of prerequisites. And prerequisites will not necessarily depend on the size of the organization. There are SMEs that are listed on the exchange. I think at the moment we have 120, something like that, organizations, which by international standards, considering the size of Malta, isn't bad at all. Okay? The problem is that we have so many other SMEs and family-run businesses out there who rely on bank finance and traditional sources and don't or feel that they're not appropriate to get to the capital market. Complex. It's complex because, first of all, to access the capital market, you need to have a structure, and many SMEs don't have a structure. You have to have a corporate governance structure, which is also something which is very missing from family-run businesses. Let me give you an example. Family-run business, typical board meeting is Sunday lunch over a plate of pasta. Okay? Now, are there minutes? No. Are there, but it works. Why? Because you have the father, you have the children, you have the grandfather, the generations represented around a plate of spaghetti, and the job gets done. But it's not the best way to do it, obviously. Now, if you're talking about the capital market, you need to have a good corporate governance structure. You have to have a culture, the culture of being transparent. Now, most SMEs, most family-run businesses are, by nature, not transparent. Does that mean they're compliant? By and large, not completely, but by and large they are. In the case of capital markets, you have to be fully compliant. So there are certain prerequisites. There's a brand. Why? Because when you go to the capital market, you are not convincing the bank manager, the credit scoring system, and a small group of people to lend you money or not. If you go to the bank, you have maybe 5, 6 decision makers. If you go to the capital market, you need hundreds of decision makers who are each going to individually put their hands into their pockets and lend you their hard-earned money. As opposed to the bank who is lending you deposit money. It's a different concept, a different structure. Therefore, you need to have a brand. If you're going to go to the market, if you don't have a brand, you need to build one. Okay? You need to surround yourself by advisors, corporate advisors, the sponsors. There's a process. We mentioned before the creation of the prospectus. So you need to have a sponsor who's going to create the prospectus based on the information that you give him. Okay? This has to be applied to the regulator, and the regulator has to approve. So you're not talking about a group of people at the bank who are going to lend you money. You're talking about the regulator who's going to say, yes, I'm not going to lend you money, but I'm going to allow you to make an offer to the public based on these conditions for the public to consider whether they want to lend you money. So it becomes complex.
It's true. But the thing is that as we have already discussed earlier, the thing is about having a vision, having a plan. That's what makes sense. You have to prepare where I am now, where I want to go. And along the journey, you would need to tap different sources of finance. You may start from seed capital, then move on. But obviously, at each stage, it will become more complex, and the admissions or the sixth stage, because we've got a market for SMEs as well, and talking from the exchanges side now. We've got the SME market, but still would need to have a certain structure, to have a brand, to convince people that you can actually pay out, for example, the interests. So that's where it does become complex. So on to the next question. I think you've addressed most of it because we're talking about the challenges to tap the capital market. And the challenges I see are in the complexity.
The challenges are to get your systems in order, your culture, your transparency, your governance in place, all the ducks lined up in a row in order to be able to apply. Let's start from there. And then, once you've applied, to convince people to lend you their money or to invest in your business, either through bonds or equity, obviously. But it doesn't end there, and this is what the module covers essentially. It doesn't end there. It's the journey. Because even the moment you receive the money, the moment you receive your bond, you've successfully issued a bond, and you receive the capital, the next step is to implement that capital, to implement your business plan, spend the investment that people have given to you, in line with your business plan, in line with the time frames, and to remain transparent. And that is also a challenge. The chances are, or the tendency is, I've gotten the money, thank you very much, now leave me alone, I'm going to spend it. No, you have to spend it in line with the plan, and you have to be transparent. You need to explain to the market the goods and the bads. Yeah, people don't like sharing bad news, but part of the reality of the market is that if there's news which you need to inform the market, you need to keep the market informed. And the tendency is that a family-run business will tend to keep it, to themselves. The reality of the capital market is you need to share, obviously, where it's appropriate.
But it's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all.
So now I want you to talk to us about the benefits of having a listing, having an admissions to the capital market. I mean, briefly, but it's not all doom and gloom because there are advantages that one can get out of being out there and being seen.
This is the journey. So, like Steph was saying, a normal business, a startup business, a family-run business starts with its own finance or basic good products, bank loan or bank overdraft. That's the basic stuff. As you progress, as the company, as the organization progresses through its life and grows, it becomes more demanding. It needs more complex products. And the capital market is there to be able to help. Doom and gloom? No. Honestly, I think it should be very positive. First of all, I mentioned the brand. The fact that you need a brand to get into the market is important. But the fact that you have a brand once you are in the market is also important. Why? Because if you have a good brand and you are present in the market and you do what you said you are going to do effectively, then the chances are that in the future, if you go to the market for further financing, or if you have new projects, your brand will be associated with success. Your brand will be associated with positive performance. And therefore, it will be easier for you as an organization to tap the market again. Let me give you an example. And I'm not going to go into any confidential information here. Corinthia, when they issued one of the bonds recently, some time ago anyway, they did all the processes to be able to issue this bond. But when it came to marketing this bond, what did they do? Did they put any billboards and spend a lot of money on campaigns? No. They sent a letter. They sent a letter to their existing shareholders and bondholders. And they said, this one, Mr. Bondholder, you've invested in the current bonds, etc. Do you want to reinvest because you're coming out with a new bond? And they sold that bond within a week. In fact, the general public who did not have current investments were unable to buy, but they could buy on the market, because it was fully subscribed, oversubscribed. Simply through a letter. That's the power of the brand. But not only, being a listed entity makes you more efficient. Why? Because you are not just doing your own thing. You are being measured. You are being, I won't say controlled, but you are being critically assessed, and you have to set a high standard. Okay? Especially more so, we mentioned the board of directors and we mentioned governance, that being a listed entity, especially with equity, you need to have an independent director or more than one. Having an independent director dilutes, admittedly, the board of directors away from the family-run business, but it gives you a fresh approach. We are not all experts at everything, it's impossible. The reason I enjoyed working on the Fairness Project, and I honestly enjoyed it, is because you are working with different individuals with different skill sets. And therefore, the things which I'm not good at, and there are lots of things I'm not good at, I will assign to people who are good at it. And likewise, if they're not good at something and I'm better, then I do that. And it's by sharing the experience, and by sharing the responsibilities, and making the best of our skills. And this is what a good board of directors does. A well-composed board of directors is going to have a multidisciplinary skill set. So that they're not all lawyers, they're not all accountants, but they are a bit of everything, individually. And that allows them to get the job done very effectively.
So, the last question is about the choice of an instrument that one would decide upon. Is it equity or is it bond?
Okay, equity, I'm not going to tell you the basics, obviously. Equity is shareholding, bond is a debt. Now, why? Why is it important? Because if you are selling equity, you are selling part of the ownership. You are diluting the amount of ownership that you might have in the family. So the family-run business owns 100%, and is selling 25%. You still maintain a controlling interest, but part of the ownership of that company is now in the hands of the general public. It could be one, it could be multiple shareholders. Because you have shareholders, you are responsible as a board to all shareholders. Okay? So as a shareholder, as a director of the board, you're not responsible to the shareholders who voted you in, but you are responsible to all shareholders equally. And therefore, and there are regulatory and legislative responsibilities. On the other hand, and this is the good news, the bit before was also good news to be fair, if the company declares profits, there's no obligation to pay a dividend, and in the meantime, the cost of having those shares of that shareholding as part of your equity is zero. Why? Because you're not paying tax. Okay? You're not obliged to pay an interest rate as you would, or to repay that investment. The investment is there, it is capital which is part of the company's capital, it's fixed within the company, and it's up to the company's board of directors, as its leaders, to address how that capital is going to be used, and obviously if there is profits generated, they can distribute those profits as well. But it's not an obligation. Obviously, in Malta, very often companies declare profits and will declare a dividend, which is fine. But part of the profit is going to be retained as a source of future investment. On the other hand, a bond is a debt, which means that in X years, 10 years, or whatever it is, I'm going to pay you back as an organization, and then you I'm paying you interest. That interest is tax deductible because of the cost. Just like interest which is charged when you borrow money from the bank. And therefore, there is a source of tax benefit, if you like, that the capital that you're borrowing from the public, to investors, to the issue of a bond, has tax connotations. Obviously, the level of risk associated with the bond is much less than that associated with an equity. So an investor, and in fact in Malta, we see more bonds being issued than equity. Partly because families are a bit resistant to sharing ownership in companies in the family-run business, selling the family silver, as they say, but also because bonds are a comfortable source of finance which is fairly predictable. And so if you have a good cash flow, that's another point, you need a cash flow. In the case of equity, you don't need a strong cash flow other than operational premises, because if you don't have a cash flow, you can issue a dividend through shares, for example. You go on the share, for example. But in the case of a bond, obviously you need to pay interest every year, and you need to prepare to pay back the debts after 10 years or whenever it is when it matures.
I think we've concluded now, at least from my end.
We're still on time. Well done. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know whether there are any questions or comments. Okay, so I hope you found the session interesting and useful. I do invite you to go onto the website, if you can bring the website, the last page of the original presentation, which gives you the website address. It's really, I know I'm biased, obviously we're biased, but it is a really good, I think it's a really good tool, which I think has value. So I do invite you to look at the website, check out the modules, share as you feel appropriate, and thank you very much again for staying here to the very end. Thank you very much for coming, and I invite you to join us in some refreshments outside for the next few minutes until we close. Thank you, everybody.